Hello my dear friends and welcome back to another video. The Book of Boba Fett is just 3 months away, and with our first official trailer hopefully just around the corner, I thought it was the perfect opportunity for another speculation video. In today's video we're going to be going through every single Force user that we might see in the Book of Boba Fett. Now just as a disclaimer, there is a chance that no Force users are going to appear whatsoever, but given the importance that Robert Rodriguez has placed on flashbacks, there is a chance we will get at least a couple. Now I will say that ultimately the Book of Boba Fett is not a show that's meant to give us too many Force-related plot points. After all, it's meant to be gritty and centered around Boba's past and present journeys and where he's going. More than anything, it's going to be bounty hunter-centric and not concerned with the Jedi. But that being said, it doesn't mean that one or two won't appear. As I say though, this is all speculation and some of these are a bit of a stretch. But without much further ado and without any more jibber jabber, let's dive into it. Let's begin with some of the more likely ones. Luke Skywalker. Luke Skywalker made his return to the post-Return of the Jedi world when he broke the internet in the Mandalorian Season 2 finale last year. His epic return saw him take Grogu under his wing, and we were left with more questions than answers. Ever since that big scene, something we've wanted to know is where he took the child, and where we're going to see more of them. While some of the earliest rumours for the Book of Boba Fett seem to suggest that we're going to see Luke sooner rather than later. These rumours have re-emerged in the last few weeks, and there is good reason to think that Luke might appear in the Book of Boba Fett. We must remember that the Book of Boba Fett is going to be a revenge list for Boba. He's going to go after everyone who wronged him, and I doubt that he forgot what Luke did in episode 6. What makes this encounter very interesting though is that Grogu is going to be with Luke. As we saw in the Mandalorian Season 2, Boba helped in Jaren's mission in chapter 16 to rescue Grogu. So we must wonder if Boba Fett is out to get Luke. Is he going to change his mind when he sees the child? And to this extent, is he even going to recognize Grogu because he never actually saw him? Outside of the Mandalorian timeline, Boba and Luke had encounters between episodes 5 and 6. Between trying to steal Han in Carbonite with Leia and being responsible for Boba's fall into the Sarlacc pit, there's no doubt that Luke qualifies for Boba's hit list. The only question is, if Luke Skywalker does appear, are Lucasfilm going to use the same deepfake algorithm that we saw them use in Season 2 of Mando? If the recent Luke Skywalker behind the scenes special is anything to go by, it seems very likely. So next up my dear friends, we have Grogu. If Luke appears, so will Grogu. Some rumours emerged on Reddit earlier this year that stated that the Grogu puppet was seen on set with Bryce Dallas Howard. And while Bryce is now confirmed to direct an episode of the Book of Boba Fett, we must wonder if the Grogu rumour is true. He seems like a probable choice for Disney because in essence he's a cash cow. With Grogu being put on every single bit of merch imaginable, if he cameos in the Book of Boba Fett, I would not be surprised. Disney might try to insert him in as many shows as possible. Now if Grogu appears, this would also line up with the reports that Pedro Pascal filmed a few scenes for Boba as well. Maybe Din Djarin and Grogu are going to reunite sooner than expected. Who knows, time will tell. So before we carry on guys, I must say that those two are the most likely choices for the Book of Boba Fett. The remaining Force users are more of a stretch, but still worth bearing in mind. So with that said, next up we have Mace Windu. Now you're probably sick of me rambling on about him at this point, but I'm pretty convinced that in some way, shape or form, he is going to make a return. Whether it's in a flashback or it turns out that he's still alive and survived the fall in Revenge of the Sith, I believe with all my heart that Mace lives. I've made countless videos where I expand on this and why I think the Book of Boba Fett is the perfect place for his return. If you haven't seen those, go check them out. So next up we have someone you may have never even considered. And before you instinctively bash me in the comments, please hear me out. Maz Kanata. While she was not a Jedi, she was indeed a Force sensitive. Now what I'm about to say is going to make a lot more sense in the coming weeks and months, but I have very good reason to believe that Lucasfilm have been trying to insert her into the Mandalorian for quite some time. The reason I believe the Book of Boba Fett is the perfect place for her return is because she has a connection to Boba. Even though it's written off as an Easter egg, many fans caught on to the big tease in Battlefront 2. We see the Slave One next to her castle. In the level set on Takodana, around the 2-minute mark, a voiceover says, not only did Maz Kanata collect artifacts, she also collects some pretty iconic spaceships as well. Maybe a subplot in the Book of Boba Fett is that the Slave One is stolen. Boba and Fennec Shand might have to retrieve it from Maz's castle if that's where it ended up. At the end of the day, even if you dislike the sequels, this is just speculation, but I wouldn't write it off just yet. Next up we have Leia Organa. Princess Leia is Force sensitive, and while the original trilogy only hinted at it once in Return of the Jedi, the expanded universe and then the sequel trilogy went a long way to show us her abilities. Canonically, she had to stop her Jedi training because she sensed that near the end of her path, her son Ben would die. Now, while this is an extremely unlikely option for a show like the Book of Boba Fett, if Luke Skywalker and Han Solo appear as some rumors suggest, then why not very briefly show us Princess Leia? Again, this is probably not going to happen, but since we're speculating, we need to consider Force users who were around at this point. Next up we have Darth Vader, who died 5 years prior to this point in the timeline. If he appears, which is something I scooped a week ago, it's going to be in flashbacks to when he hired Boba to capture Han Solo. War of the Bounty Hunters comics have shown us just how difficult Boba's journey was from Cloud City on Bespin to Jabba's palace on Tatooine, and Darth Vader was present more than once while Boba was going through a lot of grief. A Darth Vader cameo in flashbacks would be absolutely epic and more than welcome. And finally, my dear Mandalorians, we have some honourable mentions. These are almost certainly not going to appear, but it's worth bearing them in mind nonetheless, mainly because they're active and around at this point, and I'm talking about Ahsoka and Ezra. Now, the reason I don't think they're going to appear is because the Ahsoka series is going to explore Ahsoka and Sabine searching for Ezra, who was launched into hyperspace with Thrawn at the end of Rebels. It's almost a given that we're not going to see her or Ezra in the Book of Boba Fett, but Ahsoka's hunt for Thrawn takes place around the same time. Now, as I said at the start as a disclaimer, the Book of Boba Fett is not a show that's meant to give us too many Force wielders, and we may not get any whatsoever, but these characters are all very important to either Boba himself or plot points at this point in the timeline. So we do need to keep all of that in mind. With all of that said, guys, what did you make of this list? Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. Do you agree with them? Do you disagree with them? If so, why or why not? If you guys enjoyed this one, please be sure to give me a big fat thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel if you're brand new, and a huge welcome if you are. And if you're feeling generous, please also consider becoming a patron. The link is down there in the description. But otherwise, I'm Star Wars Meg, wishing you all a phenomenal rest of the day, no matter where you dwell in the galaxy. Have a good one.